I don't know. I mean, I don't know again. I'm not answering questions about Jon Jones. I'm just going to focus on Anthony Johnson.
How are you going to win this fight?
By being myself, I'm going to go out there and compete to the best of my ability. I'm going to pressure him. I'm going to make him fight where he's uncomfortable. And I'm going to deal him some adversity. I need to see how he handles adversity. Yes, he's done phenomenal. He's done well. But someone needs to show me how he deals when he's faced with adversity.
He just said that because you get the second shot at it, he thinks that gives you a mental advantage. He wanted even tougher. Do you agree? Is that something that he is going to face?
Well, I mean, I want it anyway. I want to be the champion. But mentally, I think the advantage comes from I've done this. This is title fight number 3 for me. Barnett, then Jones, and now Rumble. When you look back on our careers from when we were children, I've competed at everything at the highest level, and Anthony was a good wrestler himself, but he's never done this. Like, he's never fought for a championship in any organization at every level, so it's a difference.
Can you tell me what you think about the Reebok deal?
The Reebok deal, I don't know, because I'm kind of reserving my opinion until it's done. I think right now we're doing a lot of guessing. They're showing that pay structure, but you never know. UFC sometimes they send us extra checks in the mail when they don't have to. So how do you know how this Reebok thing is going to play out? As of right now, I think it's fine. I'm not opposed to it. I've got the Reebok deal. I've got another sponsorship too that's going to carry on after the Reebok deal. So I think I'll be fine.
So you don't know how much money you might lose or gain from it?
I do pretty well in sponsorships. Again, people sponsor me because they don't run the risk of me doing things outside of the octagon to hurt their brand. So I do well. I do well in terms of sponsorships. But again, I don't know what I'm going to make from Reebok because I never took the time to sit down and count, well, I had this many Strikeforce fights, UFC fights. I didn't do that because I'll figure it out whenever the time comes, I guess.
And when you say that they would mail you extra checks at UFC, are you talking about if it's like 5 a night or something like that?
No, sometimes they just send me extra money, and I love it. Because they go, well, great performance. Here, we're sending you another check. And I'm like, oh, cool.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Can I ask you, since you'd be the best person in the world to ask, when you go from training jiu-jitsu and you learn sport jiu-jitsu, that shit does not work in fights. Now, as a wrestler, outside of learning when you shoot to put your head on the outside, keep on the inside, does wrestling translate, collegiate, Olympic wrestling, does that translate instantly into MMA, or were there things that you had to adapt to make it?
There are things that you have to adapt, but a lot of it translates. Because even into jiu-jitsu, the wrestling translates because you learn the grips, you learn the ground controls. The same thing as when you're in the parterre position in wrestling. You're controlling guys as you do in jiu-jitsu. So it does. It translates immediately.
Now, do you have to focus, in a straight-up wrestling match, you have to focus a lot on the hips, make sure their hips are secure, make sure you... Is it the same in a fight, or are you working more about the upper body and isolating the low, or is it still hips?
You got to get to the hips.
Okay.
If you can't get to the hips and the legs, you're not going to finish a takedown. You have to control a guy's hips, no matter what situation you're wrestling in.
Do you like other people wrestling? Because I was watching your open workout yesterday, and you can, same as when you see some guy throw a Muay Thai kick, and another dude throw a kick, and you can see the way you shoot and the way you smoothly would turn corners and drop. Is that something after thousands and thousands of hours? And do you see other people with that?
Yeah, I see guys do it all the time. I see Weidman do it unbelievably well. Weidman's a fantastic wrestler. You can just see it in all the guys that have wrestled for a long time. But it's hours and hours and hours of doing the same exact technique. If I shoot a double leg and I get the corner, I've done that a million times. And you can see it in the positions that I take whenever I take a shot.
If there were more money in wrestling, would you have stayed and kept? No?
It was over. After my 2008 Olympics, I was done. I was done with the sport. It had given me all that it could, and I had accomplished as much as I was going to. I wasn't good enough to be the best in the world at wrestling, as much as that sucks to admit. It's just the truth.
Where do you see America going forward in Olympics? Because we had Chael Sanderson, we had some really, really good guys, and then there's kind of a gap going forward. Do you stay close to that world still?
Right now, we're as good as we've been for a really long time. 2012 Olympics, we had 2 Olympic champions and a bronze medal in seven weight classes. That's pretty good for the U.S. I believe that we have some studs. Obviously, Jordan Burroughs is pound for pound one of the best wrestlers in the world. We have some good young kids. Kyle Snyder just won the U.S. Open. He's a 19-year-old freshman from Ohio State. Tervel Delagnev is a two-time world bronze medalist at heavyweight. So we've got some potential up and down the lineup to make some noise at the World Championships.
And how do you see, because you see West Coast wrestling, if you know wrestling, West Coast wrestlers are different than East. There's a different, and then you see, like Russians, they have this kind of flowy. Where do you see it going? Are we still going to be spastic and moving? Are we?
I think as Americans, we have to continue to pressure. We aren't going to be able to flow with these Russians. We aren't going to be able to stand with them. We have to pressure them and hope to get them exhausted to where we can start securing our takedowns a little faster. So as an American wrestler, I think we need to continue to pressure and keep making these guys work hard.
And in fights, how is it that you're able to keep that pressure? You see a lot of people, 5 minutes, they're really good. And when they come out of round 2, whether they took their foot off the gas, whether they're tired, whether they're mentally, I thought I was going to beat him in 1 minute, and I did. How do you keep that going? Do you tell yourself the whole time?
Staying focused. You have to keep your head on the goal. If your goal is to be the champion, it takes 25 minutes to do that. You got to be willing and able to do it for 25 minutes. Simple as that. If you don't, most times guys will lose.
Is there a way to train for it? Because you've seen fights where you're like,
Yeah,
that dude wants out.
Yeah, well, you know, you train as hard as you can. So, yeah, I mean, but there's no guarantee. You know, everything has to come together on fight night. You can train and everything can be perfect, and on fight night it can just not work out. But you have to train yourself and prepare to try and be able to go that way for 25 minutes. No problem.